What's up, guys? Brett Okamoto from ESPN, joined with the one and only Semtex Paul Daley, who is as of today a retired MMA fighter. Man,
Yeah,
how does it feel to be introduced as a retired mixed martial artist, Paul?
feels good. In all fairness, it feels good. I've been in the sport for a long time, done a lot of things, and I just I'm looking forward to like what's to come.
Yeah. Does it feel like you were retired? Like, are you waking up on a Monday this week? Like, yeah, I'm a retired guy. Does it feel different?
You know what? The life of a fighter for me is always a blessed one. So I've never really felt like I've been working. Um, so yeah, it just feels like another normal day. Except I wasn't in it training at 6 a.m. this morning, or I didn't have to do no road work or anything, which I wouldn't have to do anyway so soon after a fight. But I'm not looking forward to anything else. There's not a timeline in my head now. It's just open. Normally after a fight, I'm like, right, I'm aiming at September.
Yeah.
Now I've got no aims, no goals as far as fighting's concerned. So I'm just chilling.
How do you think you're going to adapt to that life? Because some people think they'll like it and then they don't end up liking it, or some people love it, and get all fat and happy and travel around everywhere. Like, which one are you going to be?
Do you know what? Like I say, I'm blessed to have lived the fighter's lifestyle. So I don't expect my life to change too much. Bar the competition, I run a gym, so I'm always teaching martial arts. I plan to keep I have a schedule that I want to keep, as far as staying in the gym with my conditioning coach and as far as getting in my jits in. And the only thing I probably won't do, which will surprise everybody, is my Muay Thai, my kickboxing. I like to get on the mats and roll. It's a little easier on the body. I like to get on my bike. I like to be in the gym lifting weights. So nothing's really going to change too much.
Do you think because a lot of times what the fighters miss when they retire is just competition, right? And so we see like some
Yeah.
guys like Paul Felder is a good example. He started running triathlons, or these guys will get in these like grappling tournaments. Like, will you find some outlet for competition, or is that part of you like kind of satisfied at this point?
It depends. If I'm offered an opportunity to compete, then obviously I like to compete. But I don't need to compete. I'm just different. People have this weird misconception about me, but I'm fairly easygoing. I'm happy with my partner, my missus, and my two kids, my dog, and living the easy life. Teach my kids kickboxing class, run my gym, go on holidays. I've worked so hard. I've had a hard road before I was in competing as a professional mixed martial arts. I was in the army. Before the army, I'm studying. Before studying, I was almost scouted to be a professional football player. So my life has been non-stop, really. So I'm looking forward to some time off and just kicking back.
Yeah. I mean, this is when you come to the end of a road, these are all the questions that you got to answer, right? But like, if you were to go back to the very beginning and tell Paul Daley of 20, 21 years ago, like this is it. Here's like, I'm from the future and here's your career, how it went. Like, what do you think that Paul Daley would have thought?
I the way I'm thinking, I don't think he would say do much different. Just do you. I've never tried to be somebody that I'm not. Although I may have changed over the years, that just represents how my life is going. I'm not one to be told how to be. I'm as I speak, as you see me, it's how I am. I've never been guided. I've had numerous managers over the years that have tried to do their best to manage me. I'm an unmanageable type of character, and that's not in a negative way. That's just I just believe in being true to yourself. So that's what I tell my past self if I was coming back from the future. Just be you, and life is good.
Do you feel like lucky, or I don't even know what the right word is, because I mean, it was your hard work and it was your actions that got this done. But you had a good final fight, and you can't always say that about people in this sport. Like, how do you feel about your final fight, and was it the perfect way to exit the sport?
Yeah, the finish definitely was the perfect way to exit the sport. In all honesty, the fight went exactly the way as our coaches, we all predicted. We knew he was going to come to get the fight to the ground. We'd done the preparation in our jits defense. We were comfortable. You know, all my family and friends are saying they were worried. My supporters biting their nails for those moments where I was on my back. But we'd done the work. We knew what it was going to be, and we knew the opportunity would come for the finish. Could I have picked a better finish? Probably not. You know, it was pretty spectacular. The crowd went crazy, and it was a just finish for my career, and it sort of represents the kind of fighter that I've been, which is explosive. You know, the fight wasn't not necessarily not going my way, but it didn't look great. And then within 8 seconds, a barrage of punches, and the fight was over. And that's me, explosive Semtex.
Yeah. How was the week for you and just the experience of the fight itself? Like, were you constantly thinking about like, oh, this is the last time I'm going to do this, last time I'm going to do this? Like, was there that distraction or not really?
More so in training, when I'm doing the conditioning, the running, the pads and stuff like that. But that was kind of a sense of relief. The fight week I always enjoy, because I always say to my missus, it's just like what we would call in England a lad's holiday. So it's just like the boys are away, except, you know, I've got to train twice a day and I've got to lose a bit of weight. So it's always what we call banter, always jokes. We go out to eat, and, you know, we're all away from our partners and our kids and family, and we're just enjoying the moment. You know, it was good.
Like the motivation for that final fight, like there were times, and like you said, the fight wasn't necessarily going poorly, but it was kind of like a grueling type of style. You know, you got to defend the guy's takedowns, and it would have been real easy for you to just like not, you know, like not defend one thing or leave your neck out or something. You know what I mean? Like again, we see that sometimes in people's last fights, where it's just like the motivation to like dig deep and win the fight is just not there anymore. And it was there for you. Like, how were you able to maintain that motivation, knowing that like, well, if I lose this fight, like there's really like, it doesn't affect anything going forward?
No, I wasn't going to lose. You know, I prepared very well, and like I say, I really never felt in any danger. Everything that happened, we had prepared for, good and bad. So it's like, as I was saying in the build-up, that I've done more than I had to for this fight, probably more so in previous fights. So I wasn't worried. I knew the finish was going to come. I could hear he was getting tired, and I must have. If I wouldn't have got him when I got him, he was going out early in the third, because he was tired, he was exhausted, and I was just warming up. So.
Do you think that people, promoters and everybody will leave you alone? Or do you think you'll get calls? Do you think you'll get offers? Do you think you'll get like, hey, Paul, come on, man, it's been like 6 months. We know you want to come back. Like, do you think you'll get those types of phone calls?
I think I will. But I also think that now the way I am, I just think, because I've always been an honest guy, I think that the promoters, especially Bellator, they know I'm done. It's going to take something extremely special to get me back in the cage, and you know, I'm comfortable with where I can see my life going. I don't foresee a stage where I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to need to take a desperate fight. So if I do take a fight, it's because I want to. So I'm never going to be pushed into a corner, but I'm sure I'll get offers and stuff.
Yeah. I heard you say I think it was in the build-up to the fight, the way you described your career was, I don't think anyone has been at the top of the pyramid and then fallen so far.
Yeah.
What were you referring to there?
Just at the UFC, you know, I had a quick rise in the UFC. 2 fights, and I'm fighting in a number one contender fight against Josh Koscheck. You know, there's a lot of press behind me. I was a very you know, interesting character for the UFC at that time. So I had a lot of hype, a lot of interest, a lot of UK media behind me, and I was at the top, you know. And then within months, I was back on the road fighting in leisure centers in front of 500 people, a couple thousand people. And I just don't think, I cannot off the top of my head think of a fighter that has done that in MMA, who's been so high at the top of the sport and have the energy or the self-belief and discipline to keep going, to then have a career that's lasted 20 years and a hell of a career, and to have achieved what I've achieved. So I think that is something that's real special about my story.
Yeah, and I mean the punch itself and what happened and why the UFC cut you
Yeah,
is well known. Everybody can look that up. I'm sure you've talked about this before, but that night, when like
yeah.
Dana's standing at the podium and saying like, I don't care if he becomes the best pound for pound fighter in the world, he will never come back here. Like for you, where were you at when you were hearing that, and like what was going through your mind, like to hear the most like powerful guy in the
Yeah.
sport say like this guy's never welcome here again?
I didn't. I really. I wasn't concerned because I'm a resourceful character. I knew this sport would always be a way for me to earn money, and it was always going to be that way. Look, I was only in the UFC for 3 fights, but people still remember me being in the UFC, whether it's because of Koscheck, whether it's because of me, the Cameron fight, the Hazer fight. I was only there for 3 fights, a very, very short period of time. And I remember going around on the road and being spotted in. I was then fighting in places like Australia, Canada, Dubai, Thailand, and everybody knew me. Everybody knew me in all these different places, and I was only in the UFC for three fights. So I felt like my fan base and the impact that I had on that stage in such a short period of time could carry me through, because people still wanted to see me fight outside of that big show. I was still headlining cards in like countries they're not my place of birth. I was headlining Canada. I was co-main event in Thailand to Borkau Paramuk, who's one of the greatest Muay Thai fighters ever. I was co-main event. Now that shows, me, that my name carries some kind of weight.
Have you ever just for fun, if you would humor me here, and if you don't want to, you don't have to, but in an alternate universe where you don't get cut from the UFC, what do you think happens? What do you think your career looks like if you don't leave the UFC?
I think I have like 4 more fights, and then I think that's pretty much my career
Really?
done. I was on such a high trajectory that I feel like I don't think it could have been maintained. There was talk how it was put to me. I win the Josh Koscheck fight. I'm the coach on the Ultimate Fight House against GSP. That's what was on the line.
Yeah.
So where do I go from there? I've already been on the mixed martial arts scene for so long with Elite XC, previous to the UFC, and Cage Rage back in England. And now I'm at the top. I have a few fights, make a little bit of money, and I personally feel at the age I was at that I feel like I'd done enough.
Wow.
And maybe I'm away from the sport for a while and I try and come back, but having the UFC sort of gave in Dana White, I like to thank him, sort of gave me that extra bit of fire to prove people wrong, and I just didn't stop. I felt like the way, because the UFC was so powerful, he wanted people to see me fail as such. Like, if you're not in the UFC, you're not going to make it. And I knew that wasn't the case. And I kind of still think that, some of the media outlets that the UFC has a big holdover still, are told to not so much cover so much, because here's this guy that was supposed to be kicked out of the NFL or whatever. He was put. How's he still here if he's not in the UFC? How's he still got all these fans if he's not in the UFC? How's he had the career? And it's sort of, it doesn't look good for the UFC, because once you're in the UFC, it's the be all and end all. If fighters know they can do something with their career and their life away from the UFC, then the UFC becomes of less value. So I feel like they've purposely not sort of, mentioned me, even though I did, knock out a ton of their guys, beat a ton of their guys. I think Lorenzo Larkin was top 5 when he came over to Bellator from the UFC, and I knocked him out in the second round. And although the media there was no big great hurrah about it, it kind of like hushed down a little bit. So all of that, I think, is coming from the good man at the top.
Along those same lines, is there anything, and I would imagine kind of no, because you're a pretty outspoken guy, but is there anything that you like refrained from saying when you were an active fighter that now you're retired, that you can speak about, or that you'd like to bring some attention to or some light to?
Not really, because like you say, I always say what I have to say, but I am always kind of shocked when I see how gullible other fighters can be, and I've always had a gift. I remember I was in college. I was about 17 years old, and my teacher at the time says, "Paul, you should be in politics." So I'm very good at connecting dots and seeing between the lines, and it just makes me laugh. Some of the fighters that don't have that foresight, and kind of whether they believe they're hype or have got no forward planning or can't see how a promotion is trying to shape their career and stuff like that. I've always been wise to that and been able to make the right choices at the right time. And yeah, so I've always said what I've had to say. There's nothing that I've ever held back.
Yeah. Just a few more for you. Who is the best fighter you ever fought?
It's difficult to say. I'd probably say the fighter I felt most helpless against, and partly due to nerves and partly due to because he really is that good, is probably Rory McDonald. I'm never nervous before a fight, but that fight I was hella nervous, and it's probably one of my worst performances. But even I feel like being at my best, I just felt like he was just a level above, and I've never felt that. I never felt like, wow, he's a level above I am. Even in the fights where I've had entertaining fights, Diaz and Lima, I've never really felt out of place. Whereas Rory McDonald, I kind of just felt like I didn't have nothing to offer at all.
How about your fight with Nick Diaz is like widely credited as one of the most entertaining rounds in the sport's history. But as the guy who came up short in that round, how do you feel about it? Is that like a sense of pride for you? Do you look back on it fondly?
I don't know. People always bring that fight up, but for me, it's not a fight I look at because I lost the fight. I know what I did wrong. I didn't stick to a game plan. It was not one of my favorite fights. I know on a different night, I would have beat him. But it's not regret. It's not, it is what it is. The fight went as it went, and everything happened for a reason. And, I'm just glad that people enjoyed it, because for me, it's really not a fight, one of my favorite fights. Not because I lost, but just because I think it wasn't a great performance.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think is your place in MMA history? You've been doing this for a long time. The sport has evolved a lot over the course of your career. What do you think your place is?
Well, I'm not just a one generation fighter. I've gone over various generations, 20 years. There's kids that are competing in the UFC now that weren't even born when I first started competing. There are people that are champions that have, messaged me, not to name names, although I do, because he's a really huge name, but has messaged me. And I remember in the past asking me for pictures, and now they're the UFC champion of the world. And I know this person won't mind me saying who it is, but I don't want to do that. But we're my fans, and now we're doing so great in the sport. So I know that I've got at least three generations. I'm in their mind, and in each of those cycles of time, I've produced some fantastic knockouts.
Yeah.
So I know for sure I'm going to be a talking point in the sport for a while, because I've knocked so many guys out in such spectacular fashion, and that nobody has done it like I've done it. And I honestly believe that.
Yeah. Well, one of my last questions, maybe the last question, is like, is this goodbye, Paul? Because you've said that you want to get away from the sport, because if you stick around it, it'll draw you back in. So we said, you're going to be out of the limelight, and like fans should watch this interview, because they're not going to see you again for a while.
Yeah, I definitely don't. I don't want to be in the limelight, because, like I say, fighters do get drawn back. I don't want to be pulled back. I've done what I've done. My body is telling me it's time to stop. Injuries I've never had, bad back, bad knee, bad ankle. I love the sport of mixed martial arts, and I love martial arts. I love combat sports, but I'm now going to be doing my fighting and my judging from the comfort of an armchair with a beer, and just kicking back or on a beach somewhere. So yeah, I'm done.
Man, well, you've earned it, Paul. I mean, really enjoy your retirement, enjoy the beach, enjoy the beers, enjoy sitting back and watching the fights instead of being in there. I got to tell you, when you talk about like different generations of guys coming through, and that you provided knockouts for all of them. I mean, literally, just personally speaking, I only started covering the sport in 2009. I didn't really
Yeah.
have a whole lot of, if any, experience with the sport prior to that. So I was really, really new in 2009. I was living in Las Vegas covering fights. And your knockout of Dustin Hazlett in
Yeah.
January of 2010 was like, I hadn't seen many knockouts yet because
Yeah.
I'd been covering the sport for like 6 months at that time, but it was still
Yeah.
very new to me. And like the violence of that knockout like stuck with me, man. Like it was like, oh my, like this sport is just so real. This is what can happen, you know? That was like an early like thing in my brain, you know, clicking, seeing that night.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've even had it on, I mean, you've had it on fans, you've had it on journalists. Like that is a specific moment in my career that I remember with you knocking out Dustin Hazlett. I'm just like, man, this sport is freaking wild, you know?
It's violent. That's exactly what I feel. I'm with, like, everybody knocks people out, but just something about the way that I switch people's lights out that is not replicated very often. So and I know I'm going to be remembered in the sport for that.
Yep, absolutely, man. Well, congratulations on a great career, and enjoy retirement, bud. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.